Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, brought to you by the Fanatics Sportsbook, Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. Adam Caplan's here today. You heard from both coordinators. Brandon Graham is back. What is his expectations for BG and the Planet Edge moving forward? Plus, what did Adam see in the win over the Vikings? We got that and more right now for today's edition of Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN with our friend Adam Caplan from the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam?
Mike, good to talk to you today. Yeah, it was a really interesting game. It's funny because we do the pregame show with Greg Cosell and Jeff and I, and we talked about some of the things you can do. We know the Vikings statistically are bad against the run. Seemed early on that was going to happen. They came out running, which we thought they would do. Then they struggled with the running game, and it went back to normal, like they've struggled every game. So what do? You got to turn to something else. And I've said this all season. I know people don't want them to become a passing team, but when it's not working, Mike, try something else. And they did that, and it worked in the second half. Really, not much in the first half, but second half it was bombs away. We mentioned on our pregame show the voids in coverage. Despite what the numbers say, the tape shows differently. There are tremendous voids in Vikings zone coverage. And boy, it hurts. Spatullo, Devontae Smith have made that one play suggestion. It all worked. It all worked together. And that now I know, and we'll get into this, Mike, before we get to the defense. People are going to want to know, well, could they do this every week? That's $1 million question, Mike, about this passing game and offense overall.
Well, right. I mean, everybody's like, well, the offense back on track. I mean, we have people texting in like, hey, you can't just throw bombs down the field every single week and have that be your philosophy here. So is the offense back on track, or do they still have problems? It appears that it might be the latter.
It's TB.
I think we lost Adam here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. We'll try to reconnect with Adam Caplan here from the Inside the Birds podcast. And it sounds like he was saying it's a TBD situation with this Eagles offense moving forward here, trying to get the Eagles offense back on track. One of the things that I would say is, can you throw bombs down the field every single week? You can, but you got to do things to set it up. You can't just come out firing balls down the field every single drive. You got to do things to set that up, and you got to do things that you can build off of that. And one of those things to build off of that would be to be able to throw some maybe even short passes. How about screen passes? How about little stuff out of the backfield? How about little dump-offs? How about things that you can ultimately try and, get the ball to your playmakers, Saquon Barkley, even a guy like Will Shipley. Get those guys out in space and see what you can do. And see if you can get those guys out in space and let them get one-on-one in the open field and make guys miss. That really is a big thing that this team has kind of struggled with. It's the fact that they have to get guys out in space to try to loosen up. If you can't run the ball, dump it out because one of the things they're not doing is, where's the runs to the outside? How about a pitch and a pull? You're right. Get a guy out pulling and get him out in space and see if they can get some of these guys out on the outside. All right, we got Adam back here on the Sports Bash Live. You were saying that the offense back on track, TBD, and then you were gone.
Yeah.
You felt like the Eagles' offense.
Yeah, exactly, Mike. No, that was my point with the Eagles' offense in the passing game. Let's see a full game, Mike, of a good passing game before we say it's back. But, look, the good thing is that you saw something really good. Hurts was phenomenal in the second half. What I'd like to see from Spatullo is something I've mentioned with Kellen Moore last year, and the same thing with Spatullo. Help Hurts get rid of the ball faster. Like this game, it didn't matter in the second half. The protection was incredible. Another part of this passing game has been, despite what people think, it's not their offensive line blocking that is getting this job done. We know it's not. It's their pass blocking, Mike. It's actually been very underrated, really good this season, which you would expect. But people are killing their run blocking, which is true. But the pass blocking was great. But however, when Hurts struggles sometimes and he's holding on to the football, you got to structure the offense to get it out of his hands faster. And that's something that throughout his career, Mike, it comes up a lot when he holds on to the ball too long.
So what do you think their pass-run philosophy is right now on offense?
Well, look, they want to be a running team, okay? This is what we learned last year, and they've tried to do it. You have two choices in the National Football League, actually three. You could be a balanced team, which is a pass-run ratio is 55-45 pass. It's typical. You could do what the Eagles did last year. They were the only NFL team to run the ball more than they passed it, and also only NFL team to run the ball more than they passed in the first half. But they can't do that anymore because they can't run the ball. They're trying. You can't just not run it. But what do they want to do? They love to run. They like to be a running team, but they can't. Now, the other problem is, Mike, now with the Juergens injury, we've outlined on Football at 4 for several weeks. Mailata has not played as well. Lane Johnson struggling a little bit with the shoulder, though. He's getting better. You've got Steen at right guard, who's new. Dickerson coming back from the left ankle injury. Now Juergens. So it's you got to take what you can get. And what they really should do is start leaning towards the pass more because, A, Hurts has got a great arm. Help him out with getting it out of his hands quickly, as I just said, faster, particularly if the deep pass game is not working. And go with what works. And by the way, now, I'm not complaining, but Goddard really didn't get the ball like he should have in the second half. But, look, Smith was incredible. He's had a great season so far. Brown, I know we didn't mention it, the cryptic tweet on IG, which I actually understand a little bit. But
Confucius. What does he say here, Confucius? Because I'm thinking to myself, what is this guy doing now?
Well, this is the way I read this one. This one I kind of understood. So there's a clip out there where basically, I'm not going to go deep into it, but my interpretation of the sound clip that's out there, or reading the lips was, he wants to be the primary play a lot more, the primary pass target, number one in the progression, instead of, okay, the play broke down, so I got the football. That's what and that, by the way, fast forwarding is what I meant. I read into the IG post. I mean, unless you talk to A.J. Brown, you're truly not going to know. But that would be my interpretation when it was shown to me, because there's a lot of randomness to this pass game. You see this with Patrick Mahomes a lot, but it works. And AJ's just going to learn, he knows already, as long as he's going to be here, a lot of plays are going to break down, and you may not be the guy you may not be the primary in the play, or you might have been, but you're not getting it, or you're the primary, someone else gets it, or you're not the primary and somehow you get it because Hurts is running around when he shouldn't be running around. That goes with Josh Allen, but the big one is Mahomes. When you see it, when you have to come back to the football, this is just the way it is, and he clearly doesn't like it. That would be my interpretation of these cryptic social media posts without talking to the guy. And look, Mike, one more thing. You heard what he said last year. What's wrong with the offense, the passing game? Like, he came out and said that. Like, you could interpret that a bunch of ways.
Sure.
Well, you're talking about Kellen Moore and you're talking about Jalen Hurts. This is last year.
And listen, you're right. And I go back to what he said in the Super Bowl of him winning the Super Bowl, and it was unfulfilling. And it's like, okay, then why? Right. What is fulfilling to you? I don't get it. Like, what if you win the Super Bowl? What is fulfilling? And then this week he has a monster game, and that's not good enough. So it gets to a breaking point of, all right, now listen. I try not to read too much into this. He seems like a guy. Man, I like just hearing him talk. He seems like a very intelligent, very calculated kind of guy, and almost like he can pull the strings when he feels like it.
Yeah, I talked to the Titans coaches at the time of the trade, just get a feel for what he's like. But I think I put this out on your show and on Inside the Birds. I talked about it. Someone of the Titans told me that as much as they respected Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown in this person's mind was the heartbeat and the soul of the football team because he connects so well with people. He's a really good dude, great with his teammates here and in Tennessee. But I just feel like he's so frustrated that he's not getting the ball when he thinks he should get the ball. I look, receivers sometimes act out. I'm sure he's told his coaches this. It's not like it's a secret.
But do you get the sense that he would rather go someplace else if the team wasn't as good? I don't get that sense either.
He doesn't see. He said this last year. He didn't when he made not just the comment about what's wrong with the offense. He made other comments. He said he didn't want to be that guy. When people brought up about Terrell Owens and that stuff with McNabb,
yeah,
that's the people I've worked with Brown that I've talked to over the years. He's not like that. But I also don't think it helps. Like, do you really have to go to social media to vent? How does it help, though? It helps him, but it doesn't help anyone else.
That's a generation way behind us, Adam, that really, that's their life, right? Like, they do get a lot of, dopamine off of the reactions that they put out there for people, I guess.
Well, you got to be careful with that. Now, look, here's the thing. They still won a Super Bowl last year. They're a really good team. They're 5-2. We'll talk more Friday about the matchup against the Giants, but Eagles are a very interesting football team.
The matchup against the Giants is a lot more interesting than we thought it would be, too. I mean, the way this team, they beat you, and then really they should have won the game against Denver last week. I do want to get into real quick because I know we're short.
Yeah.
The defense right now, any concerns on the defense, and then adding Brandon Graham and the expectations for this bringing Graham back.
All right, Mike, let's start with the latter with Brandon Graham. BG is going to have a limited role this season. He did last year, but he was phenomenal. Jeff and I interviewed him before the season started. And I asked him that Rams game, which I would argue was he tormented Warren McClendon, the tackle for the Rams. I mean, it was one of the best games I've ever seen by any Eagles edge rusher in a number of years. It just was incredible. That was perfect when they started winding down BG's role to play somewhere around a third of the snaps. But I love what Vic Fangio said. I heard you talking about it before I came on. You can't just pigeonhole someone the first week they're back. You saw with Zadarius Smith. They saw he was in good football shape. Now, he played right away. The difference between that is BG is older, plus he's coming back from a follow-up surgery on the tricep. So they don't know till they get him, but Fangio wouldn't rule out him playing this week, and I get it. And, Mike, they are in dire straits at edge. So similar role to last year. He knows the defense. Now, I know Vic said he has to see what his recall is. BG's one of the most savvy defensive players Eagles have had in decades. He'll be fine. He is 37. You just don't know how many snaps he can handle. Mm-hmm. But, Mike, they are so far down. And you heard him say Ojulari doesn't think he's going to play.
Yeah, that was
Mike,
pretty.
Right now,
that was pretty concrete.
How about that?
Yeah.
3 healthy edges right now. One of them's Patrick Johnson, who should be a fifth, not a third.
Yeah, he was pretty concrete on Ojulari. He did not think he was going to play. So that brings up other concerns on the defense. What's interesting? We opened up the show saying, look, this team's 5-2, which is probably where we thought they would be. Just not the 2 you thought they would be and not the 5 how you thought they would get them. But the defense looked like it was going to be a big part of this team, and now there's concerns there.
Well, Mike, no, we said before the season started, when I gave you what my concerns before the season started, I said corner opposite Mitchell, yes, obviously, and edge. I didn't think I told it. I talked about this on our shows on Inside the Birds in August. I did not think that Jalen Hunt was ready to be that edge rusher yet. Now, could he have a Nolan Smith turnaround in season? Sure. He's good against the run. He's got good length, athleticism, willing learner, very intelligent, but he's just not there as a pass rusher. And they've got a major problem at edge rush. Like the BG signing is not going to impact anything at the trade deadline. This is just a depth signing. And as Jeff and I know, we know that, that he's been in talks with people with Eagles for a while. So it got exacerbated because of Zadarius Smith then, which is, by the way, sudden, nobody knew that was coming. Now you got the Ojulari injury. I mean, it's just crazy how this stuff is happening. And when you watch, for those who watch or listen to the Inside the Tape show tomorrow with Greg Cosell on Jihad Campbell's role, it's not quite what you thought. We're going to let Greg talk about that tomorrow. Now, Vic talked about it, but he really did not, Campbell, really work much as an edge rusher as people thought. It was mostly Dean played mostly in base, which is and they move Campbell to edge as an add-in defender against the run. It's not quite what people thought. I thought it was more edge, but Greg kind of corrected us, and that's not what the tape looked like. And Vic more or less confirmed it, though it's just a little bit of a different interpretation for Vic, but it's in the same ballpark. But the bottom line is they got to have Campbell on third down and like 4 or more in obvious pass rushing situations. What do they have to lose at this point, Mike? They've run out of players.
Yeah.
They've run out of players.
Well, they're playing a Giant team that gave them a ass whipping the last time, quite frankly. They beat them up in all facets of the game. Adam Caplan's back on Friday. We will break down Eagles-Giants, which you can listen to right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, Inside the Birds podcast available on all podcasting platforms. Football at 4 available right here on the Sports Bash.